Welcome to Slammed, a Boston Celtics podcast brought to you by Odyssey. I'm Meghan Ottolini of WEI and Odyssey, and joined as always by Justin Turpin, who was at TD Garden last night for Kristaps Porzingis' triumphant return ahead of schedule before Thanksgiving. He told us on Media Day he thought he was going to be back by December, and well, he was ahead of schedule. So I ask you, because I think this is the big topic. It's not even the absolute blowout that the Celtics had over the Clippers, a well-coached West Coast team that was on a winning streak of their own, 126-94. Kristaps Porzingis was really the story last night. Turp, you were there while I was hold down the fort doing radio at EEI. What was the atmosphere? How did it compare to what we saw from Kristaps in the finals when he came back from his injury? And it was like an insane atmosphere at TD Garden then.
Yeah, they probably could have called yesterday just Kristaps Porzingis Day. They kept showing clips of him on the Jumbotron pregame. They showed a video of him when he was walking in. They showed it on the Jumbotron, and he had a smile on his face literally all day. And I don't think he stopped smiling since he got to Boston, but right when he got off the elevator, walked into the locker room, had a giant smile on his face, came out for pregame warmups, still smiling, even starting lineup introductions, smiled the whole time. But they really played this up, the Celtics did. They kept playing clips on the Jumbotron. The fans were all into it. And then he recreated the Game 1 WWE entrance thing he talked about all summer. So that was pretty cool. And they played some like weird medieval music behind it, which was kind of funny. I don't know what kind of music it was, but it was like
medieval. Was there like a flute involved? What are we talking?
I don't think there was any kind of flute. It was just like, I don't even know what it was. It was kind of bizarre music, but it was good. It was funny because he had a coffee in his hand, and he does drink coffee before games, which I think is pretty funny. So yeah, no, the Celtics and TD Garden really played into it, and it was fun.
That might be the most European thing about him. Drinking a coffee before a basketball game?
Every game. Yeah, he comes out with a cup of coffee for his pregame warmups. It's the most bizarre thing, but apparently it works.
Here's Kristaps post-game last night talking about how it felt when he first got into that game, obviously as a starter, but, you know, the first wind, as he calls it.
Honestly, I felt better than I expected. Obviously the first wind is pretty crazy, you know, lungs burning, legs burning, everything. But after that, it was decent, and just the normal, no? Like, even on the couple of lobs, like JB threw me the lob, Peyton threw me the lob. Like both of them, I had like flat tire, like crazy, like didn't get up at all. But yeah, it was good to be back out there. And
Turp, were you surprised that they threw him in as a starter? I mean, to be honest, I was surprised that they put him in as early in the season as they did. Like, it's great. Okay, so he's healthy enough to go. It sounds like he had the most straightforward rehab possible from a unique injury. And so it's surprising to me. They said they knew this for over a week that he was going to be back in the lineup. They were circling this game. But I guess I'm a little surprised that they just threw him in there in the starting lineup for a guy that's been cold since June for the most part.
I really wasn't surprised with it, only because Al Horford was out. Had Al Horford been healthy, I don't think Kristaps would have started. But because Horford was resting on the second night of a back-to-back, it made sense, especially given how Neemias Queta played on Sunday against the Timberwolves. Not a great game from him, or he wasn't even in the lineup on Sunday against the Timberwolves. It was the game before. Not a great game from him against Washington. So I wasn't really surprised just because of the lack of depth at center. And I also think it might be easier to manage minutes as a starter, especially when you have that threshold of minutes that you want to keep him at or around. So I wasn't really surprised by it. But that said, if Al Horford had been playing and active, then I don't think Kristaps would have started.
Kristaps finished the night with 16 points in 23 minutes, 6 rebounds.
Yeah, 22 and a half.
Obviously, he does a ton on offense, being able to spread the floor. But the biggest and most immediate impact that I think you saw from him were the blocks that he had. The rim protection that has been maybe the one weak point of the Celtics throughout this short start to the season. He just makes such a difference there. And I wasn't sure how he was going to look because, again, we haven't seen him since June. He's coming off of an injury. There's a conditioning element, which you heard him talk about with the flat tires, not getting the ups and everything. But it didn't show defensively. And I think that the Celtics have to feel extremely confident knowing that he's rebounded, not in the basketball sense, but in the physical sense, into being that guy immediately again.
I was kind of surprised by how good he looked out there.
Yeah.
Just physically. He was 5 months of recovery. I mean, he came in and just like nothing happened, was just ready to go. But also just his size alone and his length, his athleticism. He didn't even have to be at 100% for him to be under the rim, just making some sort of commotion, forcing misses. He forced like 3 or 4 in the first 6 minutes he played of the game. And the Celtics had 11 blocks last night, and Joe Mazzulla kind of attributed that to Kristaps after the game when he was looking at the box score. He was like, it helps having him back and having that rim protection because, that's one area, like you said, that they've really struggled in, but he comes up, just his size and his ability to kind of play different coverages really helps him out in that department. So it seemed like to me that the Celtics were more excited to have him back defensively than they were offensively. Jaylen Brown obviously really prides himself on the defensive end, wants the Celtics to pride themselves on the defensive end, and he was really complimentary of what Kristaps brings to them defensively, as was Joe Mazzulla. But also you look at it, they hit 22 threes, and I really think that's the credit to Kristaps as well because of his ability to space the floor and create matchups for others. So it was on full display of just how much of an impact he could have on both ends of the floor last night.
Absolutely. The game, I think, was pretty much won in the second quarter. It was an absolute blowout in that corner. It was probably the best quarter of Celtics basketball of the entire season. I say that it's like, 18 games at this point, but it was just, there was no coming back from that. The Clippers made a valiant effort in the third quarter to try to close the gap completely, but it just was unrealistic. Jason Tatum, Peyton Pritchard both finished with 20 points apiece. I continue to be astounded by the level that Peyton is playing at with regularity. I have been very skeptical about whether or not he could be a real 6 man of the year candidate for the rest of the regular season. He keeps playing like this. I think it's on a lock for him. We just, aside from last night, Terp, we haven't gotten the chance to talk about Jaylen Brown and who he's been offensively. You just talked about how much he prides himself on the defensive end of the court. We need a minute to document the Timberwolves start. 5 3-pointers in 2 minutes and 22 seconds. And of course, he comes back and seals the game for them late. I mean, can you ever remember him having a stretch of shooting like that? I always think of him as such a physical guy, somebody who gets in the paint, somebody who sets the tone, changes the momentum of these games, and he's a great offensive player. But not even him. I can't really think of many Celtics who have had a shooting performance like that, even in a short stretch.
No, I can't. 15 points there. He scored all of their first 15, all from 3. And that was an incredible start. And he needed it because he hasn't been shooting the ball well from deep this year. Obviously, part of that, and he talks about it, was because of that hip injury he was dealing with beginning of the season. That really tanked his shooting percentages because he missed like almost 20 in a row at one point before he was on the injured list for a little bit there. So having him back and having him be able to shoot like that, because he's capable of it. He's at least an average 3-point shooter in the NBA. So he's capable of doing that, but I've never seen him get that hot. I mean, last year especially, he had the tendency to start games really hot, and it's kind of switched this year because Tatum's the one playing the whole first quarter as opposed to last year was Jaylen. And Jaylen did a great job last year setting the tone. We always talk about it. First quarter, Jaylen's back at it again. So he has the ability to really set the tone like that. But like you said, he's more of a physical player on offense, and he likes to get out and run in transition. And when you're in transition, he likes to go to the cup and try to get to the free throw line, try to drive through contract, try to finish at the rim. So no, I haven't seen a start like that from him, but it was impressive to see. And the crowd was all into it.
I'll say this for Jaylen, because we've watched a lot of these games together in the press box, Terp. I do respect how much he wants to go to the free throw line when his performance there is so inconsistent.
Yeah.
And I know he works on it. We both seen him work on it. So we know that he puts the work in. You have to have some kind of begrudging respect for okay, he's not afraid to go back to the free throw line, knowing that he's putting the spotlight on one of the weaker parts of his game. But I don't want to make fun of Jaylen too much.
He's shooting at the career high this year.
It was a great, yeah. Okay. And what is that term?
What, 76.5 free throws? Free throw percentage?
Free throw percentage, 76.5 for a guard. Career high. What do you see on the horizon for the Celtics? We got more NBA Cup action. Do you think that's something that the guys care about? I know you've talked about the the prize for the guys at the end of the bench, the $500,000, the $200,000 if they're runners up, $100,000 if they just make it to Vegas, a piece for every member of the roster. Do you think that that's something that we're going to see, say, like Kristaps Porzingis, maybe differences in his minutes restriction or something like that, that actually holds weight for the rest of the season and shows how determinedly they're going for the cup?
I think they'll go for it if the opportunity is there. Like we saw it last year when they went out and beat Chicago. Ironically, they have a chance to do it again against Chicago this Friday. We saw it in Washington on Friday night too, when they had a chance to boost the point differential late in the game, when they had an extra chance for a 2-on-1 and they took it and tried to boost that point differential. So if the opportunity's there, they're going to take it. And I mean, it's classic for a Joe Mazzulla team. Like if your team is in a competition, you should try to win. And that's what they're going to try to do as long as it's there. But I don't think there's any way they get away from any kind of restrictions that Kristaps Porzingis has, or even Al Horford for whatever reason. If there is kind of a watch on him, they're not going to get away from that because they trust everyone on this roster, first of all. And second of all, they understand the end goal. As much as they might want to win this and the opportunity could be there for them to win it, they're not going to get away from anything that jeopardizes what the actual goal is, especially like a guy like Kristaps Porzingis. Like they know how important he is to the success. Look at how last year, how they balanced him, how they really managed him and handled his minutes and his health. And that's so important.
And that was in the playoffs.
Right. I just don't
the real playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think they're going to get in though. I do, because it's kind of an easier way for them to get in. Pretty much just need the Hawks to lose and them to get a win.
So Terp, if they go to Vegas, are you going?
No, you had to submit the credential request like 2 weeks ago.
I didn't know if you did. I
didn't. Then,
okay.
You gotta pay all that, and then all of it has to be refundable. That's just a big headache.
Have you been to Vegas?
I have, but not since I've been of age. So I want to go like now that I'm of age. Because I went like my sophomore year of high school. And it was still great. Like we did a couple other things in Vegas, and it was really fun. But I'd like to go.
Did you go as like a family trip? Did you do that like the national parks thing and then Vegas?
The Grand Canyon, the Colorado River there, the Strip. So we did a bunch of stuff there. It was great.
That's like that's exact. My family did a very similar trip. And by the time we got to Vegas, my parents, I think, went to go gamble. And I think we rode the roller coaster at New York, like 4 times.
Oh, that roller is pretty cool.
It probably cost like $150 just like, because there's nothing else. Sorry, there's not like a ton for kids to do in Vegas.
No, but I was surprised. I mean, I had a blast. And like I said, I definitely want to go when I'm of age. Maybe Summer League next summer. That'd be a fun time to go.
Summer's tough though, unless you're gonna like live at the pool parties, which I don't know. You have to have a certain amount of taste for those.
I'm not huge on pool parties. Something about all these people mingling in one pool is just
I don't trust it. All right. Well, so I don't think either of us will be out in Vegas, but I do agree with you. I do think that there's a good shot that they go. Once they're there, anything can happen on any given night, as we've seen with the Celtics so far. But we'll keep you up to date with all the NBA Cup action. And hey, Terp, you got any big Thanksgiving plans?
No, we're hosting. So I get to stay home this year, which is nice. How about you?
Going to the in-laws, which is local. So nice. I adore them, and I adore not having to travel on Thanksgiving, because I will say my experiences traveling on Thanksgiving have almost never been smooth. So like Thanksgiving travel is horrible.
Luckily, I don't know why. I've always stayed in the state.
It's so much worse than like Christmas, anything else. It's just a nightmare. So I'm really happy to be in Massachusetts, where it all began.
Yeah, no, that's where you want to be. That's like you said, that's where everything began. That's where the holiday began. So it's only fitting.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Terp, I'll see you at practice tomorrow. We'll have a bunch more Slam podcast episodes for you this week, I'm sure, even with the holiday. We got NBA basketball action all around that, Celtics action. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow our YouTube channel. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you found this podcast the first time. Go back and find it again. We're on every podcast platform, and find us on social media. I don't think we're on Blue Sky yet, but you can blame Justin Turpin.
Not yet. Not yet.
You're not on there, right?
No, I'm not yet.
All right. I'm going to get you in the sky. Don't worry. This has been Slam. Thanks, guys.